Hello, weird friends. Welcome to my channel. I'm Jason White. This is Jason's Weird Reads. And today, I am going to be talking a little bit of a mishmash of things, of topics. I thought I would put it all into a From the Hip without the recent reads. From the Hip is meant to be just me shooting the shit, mostly in regards to stuff involving my channel, and then I usually attach recent reads to that. That will be coming up soon, but there was a couple of things that came up that I wanted to just chit-chat about, and one of them has to do with updates with my channel and why I've not been putting out so many videos. Spoiler alert, it's not because of SAD, or seasonal affective disorder, which could usually be the cause of it, but stay till the end of this video. That'll be the last thing I talk about. There's some interesting things happening with the channel, and I also want to get your guys' not advice, but suggestions for something. So stay till the end for that. So, to move on to the other video topics here, there was a couple of things I just wanted to chit-chat about, because I saw some people, there's one guy on TikTok who did a video about why he reads. And I was inspired by that video, because I often think about, why do I read, and why do I read so much? And I know the answer to that. And it goes back to, well, I'm going to get to that in a second. I'm also going to be talking about how I rate books, because the controversy always comes up in regards to star ratings, and it's something I get kind of passionate about, if not quite downright grumpy and pissed off in regards to some people's opinions on that. What it all comes down to is you do you and I'll do me, and leave it at that. You know, live and let live. Anyway, so I'm going to get into the topics here. Excuse me, my throat has been, and my lungs have been clear all day, and then I hit record and suddenly I want to cough and hack. Alright, so first topic here is, why do I read? Why do I read? Well, that is a very, very interesting question, and it honestly, it goes back to when I was a child. When I was young, I started to read on my own when I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I remember the time too. Yes, it's story time here about my life, right? Anyways, I just find that kind of ridiculous. Like, you know, why would anyone care? But I'm hoping that you would find, you know, something in this that you relate to. Anyways, so I was about 10 or 11 years old, and my grandmother, she suffered her first big heart attack, and so we were visiting her in the hospital, and I was, for some reason, I was too young to really be interested in this, but I don't even know where it came from, but I was interested in the Vietnam War, and this is in the 80s, no, the 90s, so, no, it was the 80s, whenever it was. You know, the Vietnam War isn't very far removed from that time period, so that could be why I was interested in it. There's probably a lot of people who talked about it, and there may have been TV shows and whatnot. Anyways, I came across this book. It was called Vietnam Ground Zero. It's a fiction book, and it was a series too. And so I made my mom buy it, because we were at the hospital, and this book was in the gift store, and it was to help me pass the time while we were there. And so I started reading these books, and I fell in love with them. But my childhood was kind of like sad and lonely, in a sense. I went through periods where I had like absolutely no friends at all. I'd like go out on recess, and nobody wanted to play with me. I often played in like sand pits alone and stuff like that. And so, you know, I always wanted to be a person who belonged, and I don't know where that I guess that's just a natural human instinctual desire to belong, you know, because back in the caveman days, if you didn't belong, you were often and probably kicked out. You know, you're gonna we don't want you here. You contribute nothing. And so I was often depressed about that kind of stuff, and you know, I've suffered from depression from a very young age, and I remember lying in bed late at night reading these Vietnam Ground Zero books by Eric Helm. Just a little bit of a history note about Eric Helm. It wasn't just one author. There was either two writers who did the Eric Helm stories. the Vietnam Ground Zero stories, or it was a group of people who wrote. It wasn't like Eric Helm was just like almost like a brand name in that sense. And if memory serves correctly, there were all the writers in that little group were Vietnam War veterans. Not to say that these books were like ultra realistic and groundbreaking or anything. If anything, I think maybe they were just using it as a fun way to exercise their demons. Anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself like I always do. So I found myself reading at night in bed, and I noticed way back then that when I was feeling down, reading was a huge distraction from intrusive thoughts, which is something else I have that can be tormented by. And I have found that reading absolutely takes me away from those realities. It's like a balm on my brain that's healing. I've actually compared it to it's like a drug. Reading for me is like a drug, an antidepressant like drug. It's not a drug that necessarily gets me high, although it can make me high, depending on what happens in the book and how attached you are to what's happening in the book. But it's more of like even after you're done reading, you just feel better. You know what I mean? Especially when you're holding a physical copy. I find so anyway. I don't get that like sort of sense of calm when I'm reading an ebook or even listening to an audiobook that I do when I'm reading a physical copy of a book. So those are like very, I guess, deep and personal reasons why I like why I read. It's kind of healing, but it also does something else. It changes your brain. I think it can change your point of view towards things. I've known even within myself that you can grow much more a sense of empathy or compassion towards other people simply by reading. And it always confuses me when you come across people who read a lot but don't seem to have that compassion towards other people, or empathy at least. But reading over the years definitely helped grow that within myself. And the very last reason I have here is that I absolutely love being able to read about different lives and different realities than my own. Like when you're reading, like when I read This Wretched Valley, for example, I was side by side with rock climbers, and that's not something you're going to catch me doing in real life, not one bit. There's no way I'm going to be climbing any rocks ever, and even if it was to save my own damn life, it probably wouldn't happen. So, but it's terribly fun to read about rock climbers, even if their fates are sealed in a very dark and terrible place. Go read This Wretched Valley if you haven't. It's a very dark book. So it's not just that, but like other cultures. I've read books about India. Britain. Britain is a first world country, sort of like North America, of course, UK, but it's still very different. Just me being a Canadian reading about Americans can be very different. But it's not just that. It's about being in somebody else's flesh and being in their existence and their memories and what makes them tick and what their lives have been like. Everything that's completely different from mine. I could be reading a novel about my neighbor, and it would be completely different from my reality. And that's something I absolutely love. It's like, I think it was George R.R. Martin said something like, non-readers live only once and die, but readers live a million lives. And that is a very, very true statement. And it's one that I hold on to. So that is why I read. Tell me in the darkness down there why you read, if your reasons for reading are similar to mine. Next up, I wanted to talk about a little bit about how I rate books, because every so often you get somebody, usually another booktuber or a book talker, and they criticize people like me who often give 4 and 5 star reviews, and that's it. I like to argue back about this because those people like me, often don't give too much weight to star ratings. I do not give weight to star ratings. It's just, it's never appealed to me, honestly. And so, but I do rate them regardless because it's just the way society works. And I don't mind rating them. But I don't have, I do have it. It's taken me decades to figure out what exactly my star rating is. And the only reason why it's taking me this long is because I really don't care about star ratings. What it comes down to is if I enjoyed the book or if I didn't. And oftentimes, when I don't finish a book, when I TBR it, when I do not finish it, DNF, it's because I didn't like it at all. But I will DNF books for other reasons. I'll get to that, I guess, in a minute. But and as to why I DNF books. But first off, I generally, as I just said, I do not give any weight to star ratings. It just doesn't. That doesn't communicate to me. I've seen reviewers, for example, praise a book for how great it was, how genius it was. The characters were all breathtaking and everything, and you would think it's a 5-star review by the way they're going on in their review, but then they just give it 3 stars. And I'm like, that's a 3-star review? But you were like praising this book? And it can work the reverse too. They say they hated it, or all the things that were wrong with the book. They didn't say they hated it necessarily, but they'll point out that there's like all these plot holes and everything, and then they give it 4 stars. So what does star ratings really mean? It doesn't mean anything, if you ask me. But I do, like I mentioned, I do have a way that I rate books using the star system, and I only do it because Goodreads and Amazon kind of make you do it, and it does help other readers to decide whether or not. I know I'm in the minority here. A lot of other people love the star rating, and that's fine, but don't come at me because I don't like using it. But I do have, as I keep saying, I'm going to get into it. I promise I'm going to get into it. I have my own way of rating things, so here it is. I generally do not give 2 or 1-star reviews when I'm finished a book. If the star rating is that low for me, then it was probably a did not finish. I probably put it down. Especially 1 star. If it's a 1 star, there is just no way I was going to finish that. 2 stars would mean I really did not like it, but I pushed through anyway. I haven't given very many 2-star reviews at all. And if you see me give a 2-star rating, you know that I really hated it, but I pushed through for whatever reason. 3 stars for me is generally I did not like it, but I finished it anyway. It was good enough to finish. It's sort of a meh book, if that makes any sense. It might have been okay, but for overall, I didn't really enjoy it. 4-star rating for me is where 4 and 5 stars is where I generally enjoyed the book. But for 4 stars, I generally enjoyed my time, didn't have any issues with it. I had fun while reading it, and I give a lot of 4 stars. I would say the majority, my rating actually is always, on Goodreads I should say, for every year when it does that little wrap-up thing, you can look at the stats. My rating is generally about 4.1 to 4.3 stars. So I give, the majority of my reads are 4 stars. And 5-star reads for me are those reads that I had so much fun reading. Like, it was just a lot of fun. I don't care about the flaws. It was fun. It did its job. It took me away from my reality. And I didn't find too many flaws with it. Or if I did find flaws, it didn't bother me at all because I was having so much goddamn fun. Or it was mind-blowing. You know those books. I did a video recently, the books that blew my mind. And if a book, there's not too many books that have blown my mind. Like, big ideas that are like, oh my god, I never thought of that. And you're just, wow. You're like zipped right into a new reality and a new way of thinking. It's not too many books that have done that to me. And I was able to figure out the books that did blow my mind for one reason or another. And I did a video of it. But those are 5-star reviews. I mostly give 5-star reviews to the books that I just had so much fun with that I couldn't there was no way I was going to, not give it 5 stars, even though the book probably has some flaws in it. And I don't think, necessarily that a book should be judged necessarily on its flaws. Now, I just want to break down why I decide to, DNF books on occasion. There's a couple reasons why. I don't always DNF a book because I didn't like it. Although that I would say is a good reason to DNF books, I'm very pro DNF. Although I've been harder on myself recently to finish the book anyway, but I will still put books down. I went through a few years there where it would be like one after the other. I'd be like, read 2 pages, nope. Read maybe a chapter, nope. I'd go through like 5 books before I found one that I really wanted to read. I think maybe my recent job change is why I've been sticking through books a little bit more. But like I said, it doesn't have to be because I didn't like the book. There's times where I'm like, this is good. Like I put down House of Leaves. This is like over 10 years ago when I did that, but I put it down because it seemed like it was going to get really difficult, and I just didn't want to put the energy into that, which is it's a valid reason. It's a very valid reason. But there's similar reasons why I'll put a book down. It's just not the right time. Like, I know that this is a book that I would love, but I'm not in the mood for it right now. So I'm going to put it down and hopefully pick it up later when I'm in the... Like, let's just say it's a detective book. I'm reading a detective book, and I'm like, oh, this is good, but I don't want to read a detective book right now. I really want to go to that werewolf story that I've been wanting to read. I got to go scratch that itch. So I'll put the detective book down and go read the werewolf story instead. That's actually the most times I will DNF a book. But that makes me afraid because there's so many books that I DNF, and then I know it's good, the book's going to be good, but then I don't go back to it, and that's frustrating. And that's one reason also why I might be sticking with books a little bit more now, because I'm afraid of doing that. I'm afraid of putting them down and not picking them back up. Those are the 2 biggest reasons, or I guess 3. There's 2 or 3 reasons why I DNF books. So let me know also, if you've made it this far, why you DNF books. Are you similar to me, or do you just DNF like because you generally hate them but will stick with them no matter what if you do enjoy them? Let me know in the darkness. Alright, to the third topic here, channel updates. I stuck this to the last because I kind of wanted the other 2 topics to remain the focus of the video. But if people don't want, these types of videos are sort of evergreen types of content, so this is like the tag at the end. And so I should mention the date. This is Sunday, February the 25th that I'm recording this, and you may have noticed, if you're a regular watcher, that I haven't been posting as much. And often when I'm talking on these From the Hip episodes as to why I haven't been posting, it's usually because of SAD. I get really tired in the winter months, and I think maybe knock on wood, that I'm coming out of that a little bit, because I have had a lot of energy in regards to creating things, but I have run out of ideas. So one thing I would like to request from you is let me know what types of videos you would like to see me do. Let me know deep down there in the darkness, what videos do you want to see from me? Having said that, that was like last weekend. I was out of ideas. I felt tapped out. I wanted to do a reading vlog, but you're gonna see it if the vlog ever comes out. But I can't find. There's 2 short stories I want to read. I want to do that Stephen King short story read again, off of your suggestions. If you go to my community posts, I did one after I did the last vlog where I read 2 Stephen King short stories. I asked you guys what your favorite short stories by Stephen King were, and you guys answered. So I wanted to do it again, and I can't find one of the short story collections that I know I have. I know I have it, but I can't find it. So anyways, if that video comes out, you'll see me searching for it and getting frustrated. Anyways, so despite that, I have been coming up with ideas, and I swear to God, all day today, all I did was create lists, and I want, things I want to talk about. One of the lists is actually somebody suggested in my women in horror suggestions video that I did recently. Somebody suggested that I do an LGBTQ video, and so I did that. And I also did another list, and when I do these lists, I kind of got to flesh them out with books and whatnot, and it took so much time that I've kind of run out of time. And so I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Because there's going to be like a second week without videos. So as I'm kind of alluding here to, is that I ended up taking an unintentional vacation from making videos. And so this is going to be the only video for this week, because I sort of run out of time in my schedule. I've only given myself a certain amount of time to make videos, but next weekend I should be back on it full tilt boogie. But like I said, even though I've been taking a break from making videos, I've still been thinking a lot about the channel and the things I want to do. There's been a lot of planning going on. I've been working on this channel even though I haven't been recording. So like I said, I've got those lists. I'm going to be making more lists and more video ideas. Definitely want some video ideas, any video ideas that you want me to do. But please, no, I mean, look at this bookshelf, so please don't ask for a bookshelf tour. I don't even know where half the books are, honestly. It's sad, I know, but I mean, this second shelf here is where I know most of those books, what those books are, but everywhere else it's kind of it's scary. So yeah, any other book video ideas you would like to see me do? But I've also been working on interviews. In my 2024 plan video that I did, it was either late last year or the beginning of this year, I did that video, and one of my goals this year was to interview more people and to sort of up the scales a little bit to what I've been doing with interviewing authors in the future, starting with 2024. And so far that's been going really well. You wouldn't know it because you haven't seen any interviews yet, and I haven't done any interviews yet, but I have I have 4 authors, maybe 5 authors lined up, and some of them are really interesting. Some of them I've talked to before, and I'm really excited to talk to again. And there's another author or 2 I want to approach who are bigger. I want to upscale my interviewing chops. And this is due to listening to podcasts like Talking Scared and the Kingcast. Honestly, I like their method of questioning their guests on their shows, and it's sort of the direction I was taking when I started interviewing authors. I was one of those interviewers who would ask all the typical questions, and over the years I've decided that that's boring and nobody wants to hear it. So I wanted to, like I said, up my game and make interviewing more interesting and more geared towards the writer and their books. So to get a good idea of what I want to learn and what do I want to become, or at least how I want to become better, I would suggest listening to those 2 podcasts that I just mentioned. They're also on the podcast list that I made recently. You can go check that out. So there's lots of plans, and so long as I don't become very ill, or I get into a car accident or something stupid like that again, knock on wood, it's going to be an exciting year, and I can't wait for all of you guys to jump on board with me and to take this journey alongside me. And so there you go. There's my From the Hip number 24. Was it? Yeah, 24. It's kind of weird. It's taken me like 4 years to get to 24 episodes of this. But if you've been paying attention at all, you know that the last 12 of these have all happened fairly recently. So I'm picking up the pace, and I'm very happy to be doing so. So thank you for making it this far. If you made it this far with me, leave me a vampire. Why not? Vampires. I like vampires. I like vampires a lot. So leave me a little vampire down there in the darkness, and I'll leave you some vampires in return. Thank you for watching. Keep being safe, and keep being creative, my weird friends. And I'll catch you guys when I'm done my unintentional vacation here, and I'll bring you guys some more bookish content.